This episode of Passing the Plate is sponsored by Storied Book Recipes from Storied. Welcome to Passing the Plate, the podcast that's all about food, traditions, and the incredible connections they create. I'm Ashley Cavelli, the food writer and recipe developer behind Big Flavors from a Tiny Kitchen.
And I'm Lisa Lisson, the genealogist and family history expert behind Are You My Cousin? We are your guides on this flavor-packed adventure. We're not just talking about recipes. We're diving into family history, exploring new cultures, and preserving favorite recipes for future generations. In short, we're celebrating the stories and tastes that come with every bite.
So grab a seat at the table and let's head out on a journey of flavor, tradition, and connection. This is Passing the Plate, where every episode is a feast for the senses and a celebration of togetherness. Ever wonder how individually portioned frozen meals came to be? We're digging into the history and lore of the TV dinner in today's episode. Lisa, did you grow up eating TV dinners?
You know, I did. Now, it wasn't something we did very often, but it was considered a treat, which I think is kind of funny, but it was a treat. And we would have them when my parents were going out. So if they were going out to dinner with friends or to bridge club or over to someone's house, then mother would let us pick out a TV dinner at the grocery store. And so the sitter would cook them. They had, they were in the little metal things, and I would cook them in the oven because we didn't have microwaves at that point. Now that I've just aged myself, but that's all right. I live in the world of genealogy researchers, and any one of them can find my age in 2 seconds flat.
Oh, yeah.
So there we go. So we did use them, but they definitely look quite different then than compared to today.
Yeah, I know me and my mom had a lot of frozen foods growing up, but like when I think of TV dinners, I think of the ones like you were saying that came in like a tray with the little divided sections with the meat sides and even dessert sometimes. Like I think Hungry Man would have like a brownie or something. And my favorite when I was a kid was Kid Cuisine because, a dinosaur-shaped chicken nugget inherently tastes better to a child than a non-dinosaur shaped one. And I feel like burning your mouth on that hot apple dessert, that like apple cinnamon thing, was kind of a rite of passage. But Lisa, as our resident researcher, what were you able to dig up on the history of these frozen convenience meals?
Right, so it's really kind of really an interesting background to these, and where I pulled this information that I've got, guys, from two websites. One's called Back Then History, and I'll link to that in the show notes, and the other one is the History Channel, and so we'll be sure and link those in the show notes. But so the history of the TV dinner, guys, there are a lot of different theories. It's a bit murky. Can't say anybody knows 100% for sure, or I should say agrees upon the actual theory or the actual history of it. But the precursor to what we think of as that TV dinner, that classic TV dinner that as we knew them, was actually created by Maxon Food Systems Incorporated. They were called Stratoplates, and they were sold to airline staff and passengers beginning in 1945. So what we know as TV dinners actually kind of about after the frozen meals or the meals to serve on airline. The airlines were doing. And so that started around 1945. So at the end of World War II, in 1949, Albert and Meyer Bernstein created Frozen Dinners, Inc. And they noticed that there were, around this time, about 260 tons of frozen turkeys that were in refrigerated cars after Thanksgiving in 1953. So what are you going to do? You don't want to lose all your product, right?
Yeah.
So the company, they sold the frozen dinners. So their company started selling frozen dinners packaged on those aluminum trays with those 3 compartments. I thought that was so cool, the 3 distinct compartments. And they began selling them. This was in the Pittsburgh area. And so they started selling them to the general public. And they expanded that distribution to over 2.5 million frozen dinners by 1954.
Wait,
That's
so was
frozen dinners?
I'm trying to picture, was the frozen turkey, when I think of a frozen turkey, I think of a whole frozen turkey. So clearly that's not what.
Well, so the frozen turkey, I'm not clear if it was the turkey like still in turkey form or if it was turkey parts. I'm not 100% sure. But they had this product, so they needed to do something with it to sell it, so they didn't lose it. So they had to get creative. And they were already seeing those precursors to that early TV dinner were those airline meals, and so they basically took the turkeys and converted it into, I guess shall I say, airline meals, but made them for
Yeah.
general public consumption. And now the interesting thing is, while it was really it didn't truly catch on until Swanson entered the
Mm.
picture. And I think a lot of us have heard of probably the Swanson Food
Yep.
Company. And so the most commonly accepted account about the TV dinner holds that Jerry Thomas, who was a Swanson salesman, came up with the concept. Now, later on, they actually said that has been disputed and said that Betty Cronin, who was Swanson's, I can't say this word, bacteriologist, specialist in bacteria. Betty Cronin, who was Swanson's bacteriologist at the time, that she was the person responsible for working out how to ensure that all those different foods that you would see in a dinner were cooked thoroughly. They could be cooked thoroughly in the same amount of time and still be, delicious to eat. And
Yeah.
so some theories hold it that she's the one who came up with the concept and credit her. Now, the Swanson's brothers actually back up this story that Betty Cronin was responsible and actually refute Jerry Thomas's claim, but there are plenty who also support Jerry Thomas. So again, guys, it's a little murky in there, but when you think, here's what you think about is that when you have a meat usually and you have some vegetables, later on you had a dessert, you're right, these have to be cooked in an oven, in an aluminum tinfoil tray, basically. At the same time, how can any cook knows it's really hard to cook foods all at the same time and get them ready at the same time.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to do that, different densities and different types of foods to get them cooked and edible at the same time, that's a real feat.
Well, and I don't think that it was always already cooked though, right? Like it was cooked and then frozen, and then you're basically just reheating it at home. But yeah, the things need to be able to thaw at the same or at a pace that makes it so that they can cook and not overcook. So yeah, definitely tricky.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, all that to say, by the end of 1954, Swanson had sold 10 million trays. And guess what? They cost 98 cents.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine?
Now, they have actually, frozen foods have definitely come a long way since those days.
Yes.
There has been a true resurgence since 2020, since the pandemic, with many of the restaurants that were closed for the coronavirus outbreak. American, we were buying frozen foods a lot more often. And so they have been seeing, I think the stat I saw was that Americans spent almost 50% more on TV dinners in April 2020 as compared to April 2019.
Huh.
A lot.
I wonder what it is now. I'm curious, like if it's tapered off or whatever. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would think it's tapered off.
Yeah.
I didn't see any stats to support it, but people are enjoying getting back out.
Yeah.
And of course, too, now we have, I think there was we were seeing a bit of a rise in, what are the food subscription things where you can order the ingredients
like
to make
meal
it
kits.
home. So I think people were getting a lot more creative with that type of thing as well.
Yeah. I buy a decent amount of individually frozen ingredients and some prepared food items, but I haven't bought a divided like TV dinner type meal in a while. I wonder how they've changed over the last 30 years since I probably last had one of those types.
Yeah, right. Me either. I do think those early TV dinners, it was really about convenience because, face it, they didn't taste that great. We thought they did, but in reality, they didn't taste that great, right? Yeah. And I think today, certainly, it's still about convenience, but we have a better quality variety. They're more nutritionally sound. Typically, you can get different types of cuisines. If you have a specific dietary preference, there's a frozen food out there for it. You can get single servings. You can get large family servings. Some are cooked in the microwave. Some are going to be in the oven. Some are going to be stovetop. So I think underneath all of this is really convenience.
Yeah.
And quickness. As people are busy, it's about having it all on hand. It's about getting it done quickly and getting back out the door to a ball practice kind of thing.
Right. Well, and I agree, taste really wasn't what we were going for when we had them years ago. But I do remember, like you were saying, going to pick out your TV dinner at the store. Like, it was like so cool to be able to pick out your own of any of the meals. Like you felt so fancy, right? Like
you felt fancy. Yeah. And it was because, I mean, you know, they were relatively speaking, they were expensive to buy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know pricing compared now, but you know, in the food budget for, you know, when I was a kid, I mean, that was an expensive option.
Well, and
for one meal.
I feel like kids oftentimes don't get as much of a say in what's for dinner. So having them have that little thing where it's like, hey, you get to choose, like it's kind of a big deal. At least it stuck with me in that way. And before microwaving was popular, you know, it's a convenience food, but before microwaving was popular, they took a long time to cook. So it wasn't like minimal time to, quote, prepare it, but really the convenience was that it was already prepared and ready in that aspect. And then also the fact that it was a disposable dish.
Right. You saved time on the front end of prepping and saved time on the back end of cleaning up. And absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, you know, while it's cooking, you can be doing other things. So,
right.
You know,
talking on your landline corded telephone.
That's right. Getting up out of the chair to go change the TV set. I diverged there. Now, the name, you know, certainly we've seen the quality and the type of frozen foods change. And so we've also seen that name change. I don't think we call them TV dinners anymore. I've not heard that unless somebody's in a real, you know, a retro theme type of conversation. But usually what we're hearing them, they're frozen meals, frozen foods, convenient foods, ready to eat foods, meal kits, may or may not be frozen. But so I think we're hearing them in different terminology, but all goes back to that early TV dinner. This episode of Passing the Plate is sponsored by Storied Book Recipes from Storied.
Hey Lisa, you know how recipes are about more than just food?
Absolutely. They're memories, traditions, and stories passed down through generations.
Exactly. And that's why we're excited to share Storied Book Recipes from Storied with Passing the Plate listeners. Storied Book Recipes isn't just a cookbook, it's a beautiful way to gather, preserve, and share your family's culinary traditions. It allows you to capture recipes along with the stories and the family photos behind them all in one place.
Imagine gifting a beautifully printed storied book to your loved ones, filled with recipes, memories, and family history. It's more than a book. It's a timeless connection. Storied.com allows you to build your family tree, discover historical records, and share your family's story with future generations.
It's such a great way to keep your family's food and recipe traditions alive, which is what we're all about here at Passing the Plate.
Visit storied.com/plate or use code PLATE to save 20% off your first storied book and create something your family will treasure forever.
I feel like now a lot of what I see, again, I don't really go looking for this, but I'll keep my eye out the next time I go to the store. But I feel like it's more of like one dish versus separate components of a meal, but it's a full meal. So it's not like you're not getting like only meat. You're getting like a meat and pasta dish that has vegetables in it instead of a container of meat, a container of vegetable one, a container of vegetable two, you know, that type of thing. But so as we were looking into the history of all this for this episode, I came across a place, and man, I wish they were local to me. It's called Lazy Dog TV Dinners. We'll link the site in the show notes, but on their website, it says, our house-made TV dinners are perfect for busy days, cozy nights, and everything in between. Enjoy a hearty serving of house-made favorites like our barbecue meatloaf or grilled lemon chicken. These meals are made in-house, frozen in retro-style trays, and ready to pop into the oven when you need them. And now you can even take them to the grill. And then they have directions for if you want to prepare them on the grill. So on their site, it says for only $10.50, you get a filling meal packed with an entree, side, and a dessert. They have curbside pickup or delivery locally, and we'll get there in a minute. And then, so this is a restaurant because it says if you're dining with us, you can order these to go. Just let your server know. They're in several states. They have some scattered throughout California, Nevada, this is Colorado, Texas, Pennsylvania, Florida, Illinois. There's a handful of states. New York is not one of them, unfortunately for me. But it had me thinking it could be fun to make your own TV dinners like this out of leftovers, or like when you're meal prepping and freeze for later. But my only thought, like part of the convenience of a TV dinner type of thing is the disposable packaging, which I don't personally love, but there's a lot of oven safe containers that you could use, or microwave safe if you were wanting to do that. Just don't use metal. But like, thinking through things that I cook, taquitos, they freeze really well. So I could make a quote TV dinner style thing while I'm making taquitos anyway, that has taquitos and some rice and beans. You could even refreeze, or you could even freeze up some like restaurant leftovers, because I'll often have extra when I'm at a restaurant. But I was just thinking packaging it like that, like a meal kind of, might be a fun, I don't know, just a fun, different way to do it than just popping something in the freezer in a super cube, which I love doing, but kind of making it more of a meal.
I like that idea because it's the decision has already been made for
Yes.
you. I think that's where, when it comes to convenience too, there's like, what's for dinner? To me, that is the hardest question to ever answer. Once I've answered that question, then dinner prep and everything is usually flows just fine. But it's that, what is it I want to eat? What is it for dinner? So, okay, yes, I have taquitos, but do I have the beans and rice? But if you packaged it all together, you kind of made that decision up front. And I think that's kind of the beauty of having a meal kit, a frozen meal kit that you make yourself, or, could buy somewhere else. Sometimes what I've done is maybe I have things that I need to, for whatever reason, I need to freeze them separately. But like maybe if I put in taquitos, I might label it, of course, taquitos, and then I might say, eat with beans and rice. So I might label it so that with a specific direction on it, so that I would know, or, this goes well with such and such. So that just to kind of help, really, I think a lot of what you're doing with this is you're kind of making those decisions.
Yeah.
Meal planning decisions while you're not hungry, and while you're not, you've got the stuff and you can make the decision before you keep moving forward.
Well, and I'm always a fan of helping out future you, because if I'm already making something, if future me would appreciate having a little extra of whatever I'm already doing it, I might as well. Like a lot of times if you spend an extra couple minutes now, you'll save a lot of time down the line. And I think that's hugely helpful. And yeah, the decision fatigue can be exhausting. Some other considerations when freezing things, because I think a lot of people shy away from freezing, is because of freezer burn. So you can do things like use a vacuum sealer if you have one. I've used a food saver for years, and that really kind of helped me get past my fear of just letting things die a slow death in the freezer. It sucks the air out basically and seals it. But if you don't want to invest in something like that, you can use freezer bags, and just even with a straw, or just suck as much of the air out as you can, or squish as much out as you can, because the less air that's around it, the less chance that it'll get freezer burnt. So I think just, thoughtfully packaging the things that you've worked so hard to make so that they're useful again later and they don't taste weird. And then, we've talked about super cubes often, because it's just a very handy, it's like they're individually portioned, but in a tray. So like I have a 1 cup variety. So there's 4 1-cup portions. It's silicone. It's got a lid. I've seen people do, like, instead of the same, like if I was making chili, I would put 1 cup of chili in each of those 4, and I'd have 4 portions of chili for later. But some people do things like make burrito bowl as a kit. So in those 4 sections, they're putting the meat for the burritos, the beans for the burritos, having the different items, the rice for the burrito bowls. So it's kind of together as a kit. And I've also seen people do this with pizza. So like pizza dough, and you've got like some different toppings and stuff. So just thinking of creative ways to use what you have and make what you like, but make it in an easier way down the line. I feel like there's a lot of possibilities here.
I like that idea of using the super cubes for like the burrito bowl kits. I would not have thought about that. I would have kind of done more the traditional way. So I actually really like that idea. I'm gonna have to try that.
Well, and too, like, I mean, I only have the 1 cup size. There's a mark on there for a half cup. Like there's a mark inside of each of the little cavities, but they sell them in different sizes too. So if there's other sizes that you use more often, that would be handy for you, you could do that. And some people who have lots of storage space, I cannot relate, will actually just leave them in those containers with that lid on, until they're ready, and they'll like label it with a piece of tape, like pizza kit or burrito bowl kit. So there's just lots of options, and I'm always here for more creative ways to make dinner less exhausting.
Agreed. I love it. Well, guys, we hope you've enjoyed this episode all about TV dinners, frozen meals. Find the show notes for this episode at passingtheplate.org/68.
That's a wrap on this episode of Passing the Plate. We hope you enjoyed our journey into the world of food, traditions, and the amazing connections they create.
It's been a pleasure sharing these stories and flavors with you. Remember, food is more than just sustenance. It's a way to connect with our past, present, and future.
So keep sharing your meals, keep passing those plates, and keep creating memories that will last a lifetime. Head to passingtheplate.org/podcast for show notes.